I usually don't ask this early, but if you could like the video and subscribe, it would mean a lot. We're so close to hitting 10,000 subscribers, and your support can really help get my content out there. Thanks. By the time they realized what I had done, it was too late. My fiancé was gone, and the family who had plotted my downfall was left in ruins. Lucien Devereaux, 30, a successful Parisian entrepreneur. Known for his sharp intellect and ambition, Lucien has always played the long game. Born into a family of privilege, he was used to navigating the social circles of Europe, but betrayal from his own family was something he never anticipated. Valérie Rousseau, 28, Lucien's former fiancée, an artist with a gentle soul. Valérie was swept off her feet by Lucien's charm, but proved vulnerable to outside influence. Her loyalty wavered under pressure, leading her to make decisions she would come to regret. Madame Colette Dubois, 52. Lucien's aunt by marriage, married into the Devereaux family, she has always envied Lucien's power and standing. Scheming and resourceful, Colette is willing to destroy anyone to elevate her daughter's status. Eloise Dubois, 26, Colette's daughter. Eloise is an attractive, ambitious woman who desires status and wealth above all else. She is willing to use anyone, even her own family, to achieve her goals. Etienne Vernier, 34, Lucien's childhood friend and confidant. Etienne's loyalty to Lucien runs deep, but he carries his own dark secrets. He plays a key role in Lucien's ultimate revenge. Paris had always been Lucien's playground. From a young age, he had been groomed to take over the family's business empire, a series of luxury hotels that stretched from the French Riviera to the coast of Portugal. His parents had passed when he was still in university, leaving him not only the heir to a vast fortune, but also a responsibility to carry on the Devereaux legacy. It was during his final year at university that he met Valérie Rousseau. She was unlike the other women who vied for his attention, soft-spoken, creative, and possessing a humility that attracted Lucien to her instantly. Their romance blossomed amidst Parisian sunsets and late-night strolls along the Seine. By the time they were in their late 20s, Lucien had proposed, and Valérie had said yes, with tears of joy in her eyes. They were set to marry in the spring. But things took a dark turn when his aunt Colette and her daughter Eloise re-entered his life. Colette had always been a looming figure in Lucien's life. She had married into the family when Lucien was still a child, and though his late uncle had adored her, Colette's ambitions were always transparent. She despised the fact that her husband's death left her with a small inheritance, especially when her brother-in-law, Lucien's father, passed on a far more significant fortune to Lucien. For years, Colette had been biding her time, waiting for an opportunity to claim a part of the Devereaux empire for herself and her daughter. And that opportunity came in the form of Lucien's engagement to Valérie. Lucien's wealth and stature were unmatched, and Eloise, while beautiful, lacked the charm and standing to attract anyone of Lucien's caliber. Colette saw Valérie as the key to infiltrating Lucien's heart, and through it, his fortune. Colette began visiting Lucien's estate more frequently, always under the guise of family concern. At first it seemed innocent. She offered advice on the wedding plans, suggested venues, and even recommended some of Paris's most prestigious designers for Valérie's dress. Valérie, overwhelmed by the grandiosity of it all, welcomed the assistance, but Colette was sly. She started planting seeds of doubt in Valérie's mind, little whispers about Lucien's past relationships and his business dealings. "You know, Lucien has always been a bit distant, even as a child," she would say casually. "He never lets anyone get too close." Valérie, who was still adjusting to the high society lifestyle that Lucien's world demanded, began to worry. Lucien had never been anything but kind and loving to her, but Colette's constant insinuations took their toll. She wondered if she truly knew the man she was about to marry. As months went by, Valerie became more withdrawn, and Lucien noticed. He tried to reach out to her, but she always seemed preoccupied or distracted, her eyes clouded with uncertainty. Their conversations, once filled with dreams of the future, had become stilted and awkward. Lucien felt the distance growing between them, but he couldn't understand why. Meanwhile, Colette was working behind the scenes. She had set her sights on convincing Valerie that Lucien was hiding something from her, that his loyalty wasn't as steadfast as she thought. The doubts she sowed weren't direct accusations, but subtle comments. "I saw Lucien at a gallery opening the other night. Such a shame you couldn't join him. He looked distracted. There was a woman, I think she was an old friend." Valerie, sensitive to her outsider status in Lucien's world of wealth and power, started to believe that perhaps she wasn't enough for him. Perhaps he longed for someone more refined, more connected, someone like Eloise, who had grown up in this world. Eloise, meanwhile, played her part flawlessly. She would casually mention to Valerie how lucky she was to have Lucien, adding that Lucien had always been a little unpredictable in his relationships. "But don't worry," Eloise would say with a smile. "I'm sure he's changed for you." The web of deceit grew thicker, and Valerie found herself questioning everything. She started pulling away from Lucien, emotionally and physically. She canceled plans, avoided important social events, and even refused to discuss the wedding any further. Lucien, blindsided, had no idea that Colette's manipulations were at the heart of this change. One evening, Lucien returned to his estate after a long day of meetings to find Valerie waiting for him in the study, her eyes red from crying. "Lucien, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. Lucien's heart sank. He had known something was wrong for weeks, but nothing could have prepared him for what was about to happen. I don't think I can marry you," Valerie whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. Lucien froze, his mind racing. "What do you mean? Valerie, we've been planning this for over a year. What's happened? I don't feel like I know you anymore. Everyone keeps telling me things and I can't ignore them. I'm scared, Lucien. I don't know if I can trust you." Lucien was stunned. "What things? Who's been telling you this?" Valerie shook her head, unable to meet his gaze. "It doesn't matter. I've made up my mind." Lucien's world shattered in that moment. The woman he loved, the woman he was set to marry, was walking away from him, and he had no idea why. He had never been unfaithful, never given her any reason to doubt him, and yet, here she was, breaking off their engagement without a single explanation that made sense. He begged her to reconsider, but her mind had been poisoned beyond repair. Valerie left the estate that night, and Lucien didn't hear from her for weeks. In the weeks that followed, Lucien plunged into his work, throwing himself into expanding his business to distract from the pain. He avoided the social scene, unwilling to face the pitying glances of those who had heard about the broken engagement. But Lucien was not a man who could be kept down for long. Slowly, he began to piece together what had happened. A chance encounter with an old friend at a dinner party revealed that Colette had been spreading rumors about Lucien's supposed infidelities for months. It wasn't long before Lucien realized that his aunt had orchestrated the entire downfall of his relationship. Fury surged within him, but Lucien was no fool. He knew that confronting Colette outright would only give her the satisfaction of knowing she had won. Instead, he began planning his revenge. Lucien enlisted the help of Etienne Vernier, his closest confidant. Together, they devised a plan to not only expose Colette and Eloise for the schemers they were, but to ensure they paid for their betrayal in a way they could never recover from. Lucien's plan was subtle, calculated, and ruthless. Over the next several months, he quietly began buying shares in Colette's and Eloise's business interests. Unbeknownst to them, Lucien was using a network of shell companies to gain control of their most prized assets. At the same time, he re-entered the social scene, attending galas and charity events with a new woman by his side, Sophia von Liechtenstein, a stunning and accomplished businesswoman from Vienna. The gossip columns lit up with rumors about Lucien's new romance, and soon, Eloise found herself seething with jealousy. Eloise had always thought Lucien would come back to her eventually. After all, wasn't she the obvious choice? But now, seeing him with Sophia, she realized she had underestimated him. Meanwhile, Colette had grown overconfident. She believed Lucien had been defeated, and she began openly flaunting her control over Valerie, who had been drawn into Colette's inner circle after breaking off her engagement with Lucien. Valerie was now living under the Dubois family's influence, unaware of the full extent of their deception. The night of Lucien's grand unveiling arrived, a soirée at his Paris estate, where the crème de la crème of European society had gathered. Colette and Eloise, dressed to the nines, made their entrance, confident that they had secured their place in Lucien's world. As the evening progressed, Lucien made his move. Standing before the gathered guests, Lucien raised a glass, his voice commanding attention. "Tonight I'd like to make an announcement, one that has been long in the making." He turned to face Colette and Eloise, who were standing near the front of the room, oblivious to what was coming. "As many of you know, family is everything to me. But family isn't just about blood. It's about trust, loyalty, and respect. And those who betray that trust, well, they must be held accountable." The room fell silent. Lucien smiled coldly. "It is with great pleasure that I announce my full acquisition of Dubois Enterprises." Gasps filled the room. Colette's face went pale, her confident smile vanishing in an instant. Eloise looked as though the floor had just dropped out from under her. Lucien continued, his gaze never leaving Colette's. "You see, over the past few months, I've been quietly acquiring shares in your business. As of today, I own 51%, which means your company and everything you've built is now under my control." Colette's mouth opened in disbelief, but no words came out. "And as for you, Eloise," Lucien added, his voice laced with venom, "you should have thought twice before meddling in things beyond your reach." Valerie, standing in the corner, watched in shock as the truth of what had happened began to dawn on her. With the room in stunned silence, Lucien delivered his final blow. "Madame Colette Dubois, you've spent your life scheming and manipulating those around you for your own gain. But as of tonight, you have nothing." Tears welled in Colette's eyes as the realization of her downfall set in. Eloise, too, was trembling. All her ambitions, her hopes of securing Lucien and his fortune, had crumbled before her. Lucien turned to face the rest of the guests, raising his glass once more. To betrayal and to justice. With that, he left the room, Sophia by his side. In the weeks that followed, Colette and Eloise were forced to sell their assets, leaving them with nothing but their ruined reputations. Valerie, realizing the extent of Colette's betrayal, reached out to Lucien, begging for forgiveness. But Lucien had moved on. His revenge was complete, and he had no room in his life for those who had doubted him. As Lucien sat in his office overlooking the city of Paris, he smiled to himself. Justice had been served. Thank you for watching. Do you believe Lucien's revenge was justified? Or do you think he should have taken a different path? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing tales.